The worst thing that's ever happened to me, my body seemed to cave in on itself overnight. She came to me and said, I have no friends. I have never been kissed. I think I was touched everywhere you can imagine me being touched. I feel crazy. Why is it crazy to say, I am done feeling like this. I am so fed up. I am so heartbroken. I will do anything to get better. And I stand by that. I will never be the same. I move houses like overnight. I have my freaking life back. I said, enough is enough. You're not listening. We're shutting down. Welcome back to How to Be You. I'm your host, Sarah Simpson, a professional body image coach and self-love expert, which means that I come here and I tell you all of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn in order to accept myself and my body and learn to love who I am, whoever that is, in hopes that it'll give you some permission to be a little bit more yourself in this world that is always telling us who we should be. Today we're talking about the worst thing that's ever happened to me. One of the hardest things I've ever experienced, something that I choose to see the good in and find gratitude in, but has honestly been some of the darkest days of my life. And if I'm honest, this is the second time that I am trying to film this episode. The first time I did it, it was really hard to share what I'm coming here to share because it brings up so many emotions, so much anger, so much sadness, so much grief, so many highs and lows that I've had to experience. But if you read the title of the episode, Will I Ever Be Normal Again?, you'll know that we're here to talk about something that makes me feel like I'm not normal. I am broken. I am different from everybody else and therefore can't have the life I want to have. And we're going to talk today about the last few years of my life struggling with this. And that is something that came very suddenly into my life, but now that I look back, I could always see on the horizon, and that's chronic illness. In order to gain something from this episode, you do not need to be someone who's struggling with chronic illness. You do not need to be struggling with the same chronic illnesses as I am. You might be like me, where there's some things that are definitely wrong with you, and you don't even have a clear diagnosis for them. I'm not going to be going through this experience in a way that tells you exactly what I have, what's wrong with me, what my symptoms were. I'm going to be speaking about my chronic illness journey through the lens of learning how to accept it, learning how to work with it instead of against myself, and learning how to accept my body when it feels like my body is often working against me. Before we dive into this episode and the story that I'm going to tell you about the darkest days of my life, I need to give a little preface of who I was arriving at this moment as well. I may have covered it a little bit in earlier episodes already, but if you didn't know already, I, for as long as I can remember, have been a perfectionist, have been a people pleaser, have been an overachiever. So much of my identity is rooted in being someone who is smart in school when I was younger, who got good grades, who impressed other people with things like book smarts or my intelligence, and from a very young age, therefore rooted a lot of my self-identity and my self-worth in my ability to achieve and my ability to please other people. That came out a lot in my early 20s as well, with the desire to be perfect in my body. And it's something that I've been working on for a very long time, and I'm really glad to say that I don't really identify as a people pleaser so much anymore. The overachieving comes out in waves, but we've mitigated a lot of it and found a healthier relationship. And a lot of what this story is about is chronic illness forcing me to find a healthier relationship with things that actually are strengths, like being a high achiever or being determined or being organized or sometimes perfectionistic, and bringing them back from when they go a little bit too far and they start hurting us. But coming into this chapter of my life, which I've mentioned that I have the journal, which is from the summer of 2024, when a lot of things in my life hit the fan, as they might say. This is one of them. Chronic illness emerged in that time, and I'm going to reference the journal just a little bit today because there's some really powerful statements in there that I shared that I didn't realize were quite profound at the time. But now that I've been working with clients who have chronic illnesses as well when it comes to body acceptance for a couple years now, I realize that it's things that a lot of us need to hear. But yes, coming into this chapter of my life, right around summer 2024, and all the way up until exactly when I'm recording this right now, I was the go hard girl. I was the do the most, get the most out of it, maximize your days. I would work hard. I run my own business, so no one's telling me when to get off work, right? So I'm working 10, 12 hours a day leading up to this. I am then going to the gym, sometimes twice a day, because I genuinely loved movement at this point in my life. But in the past, going to the gym twice a day was also a disordered behavior. I'm someone who tries to do the most when it comes to my health, my mindset, my personal growth, my business, my social life. I'm a very extroverted person, and so my days are often extremely full. Now, arriving into summer of 2024, I was someone who had gone through eating disorder recovery. I was someone who was doing so much better in my life. I had moved to a different country, gotten away from a lot of patterns and environments that had been hurting me for a long time, and I was genuinely a much happier, healthier person, mentally and physically. And then my body seemed to cave in on itself overnight. Now, if you don't know this about me already, I've actually struggled with chronic migraines since I was about 13 or 14 years old when I first started to go through puberty, and I get hemiplegic migraines, which means that they mirror stroke symptoms. I lose feeling and functioning in one side of my body. I struggle with my cognitive abilities, my vision goes wonky, and a whole other list of things. But I've experienced this since I was a teenager, an early teenager, and so it's been more than 10, almost 15 years now that I've experienced these types of migraines. And so although they're not ideal, they are quite normal to me. However, what was normal before was a migraine every maybe month when I was going through puberty, sometimes every day actually, when puberty was at its height. But as a young adult, early 20s, up through my mid 20s, it was maybe once a month, it was maybe every couple months, and it was often right around my hormonal cycle, so right before I got my period, and if I had been overexhausting myself. My body's sending up a signal of you haven't been eating enough, or you haven't been sleeping enough, or you've been socializing too much, and we need to rest. And I would get a migraine. Now, summer of 2024, I go from an occasional migraine to a migraine every week, and then a migraine every day, and then a migraine, the migraine that never leaves. And I am in so much pain that I am bedbound. And to me, this comes out of nowhere. But like I mentioned, now I can look back and understand where this might have been coming from. I feel crazy at this time in my life. I am in Bali. It is sunny. It is beautiful. I have an amazing life that I'm so grateful for, that I'm so privileged to have. The people around me are young and healthy and fit and energetic and happy. It is such a change from my life 2 years before, back in the United States, struggling so much with my body, with my life, and with the people around me, also not being very well. And I feel crazy because it feels like I'm at Disneyland and everyone's having an amazing time, except there's this cloud over my head that's raining all the time, and no one else can see it. Everybody else is trying to make me feel better, but kind of feel crazy in the process of like, are you sure it's really that bad? Are you sure you're not just doing this one thing? Are you sure you haven't tried this and this? And I feel dramatic. I feel crazy. I feel angry at my body because I'm like, I'm a happy person. Why is this happening to me? I'm a healthy person. Why is this happening to me? Why is this coming out now? I fixed all the eating disorder stuff. I fixed all of the self-doubt and all of the negativity and all of the pushing myself too hard. What's going on? And I feel trapped inside of my body because it's slowly getting worse and worse, even though I'm trying to be a healthy person, right? I'm doing everything I should. I'm working out. I'm eating nutrient-dense meals. I'm taking care of my mind. I'm being nice to myself. I'm doing something I love in my work. Most people don't get that. And it's still getting worse and worse. And eventually, by about the middle of summer of 2024, which is where this journal is from, this mint green journal I've been carrying around and referencing, with everything else going on in my life, I also become bedbound. And looking back now, I think my body was just saying, I've had enough. We're finally actually in a safe place. Like, you actually are a happy girl. You are taking care of yourself. And now that we're out of survival mode, I actually need to show you how much I've been hurting from what you've been doing to me for years. Because looking back, I now understand that chronic illness often comes out in cases like mine. Sometimes when you are doing better, because all of this past trauma that you put your body through, like eating disorders, not sleeping enough for years on end, chronic stress, chronic anxiety that I had struggled with, it almost all comes out in a tsunami wave once your body finally realizes you're safe. But I didn't know any of this at the time, and no one around me was experiencing it, so I just felt crazy, and I just felt angry at my body. As it's now gotten so bad that I can barely get out of bed, much less work or socialize, definitely cannot work out, I am stuck in my bed, in my room, in my body. And it is awful. It is lonely, it is heartbreaking, but it also makes me listen to my body because I can't listen to anything else. I am literally not being socialized. I am trapped inside my own body and in my own room. And so for the first time, because my body is screaming so loud that I can't do anything else, that I can't listen to anything else, I start listening to it. I stop doing all of the habits that I believe are good for me, but if I'm honest, are rooted in shoulds. Going to the gym X amount of times a week, eating protein and eating fruits and veggies, yes, objectively good things for you in some ways, but so much of my approach to wellness at this time in my life is rooted in shoulds, like the frequency of movement, the foods I eat, how much I sleep, all beliefs I have that somebody else told me. That might sound obvious, right? That's how we learn about our health and wellness, but the reality is that so many of us struggling with chronic illness in a way like mine is that we are so disconnected from our body. Therefore, we're not listening to our body's signals of like, girl, you think you should sleep 7.5, 8 hours? You actually need 9.5. We don't hear that signal. Hey girl, you think you should eat this much or these foods because that's what's trendy or healthy right now. But actually, we'd benefit from more carbs. You're not having enough carbs. We need those for long-term energy. Or you'd benefit from honoring that craving. We're not hearing that signal. And these alarm bells that our body is sending up, they build up over time into this explosion, this tsunami of our body crying for help. And all of the shoulds that I had been listening to for so long, even after the eating disorder, even coming from such a good, grounded place, finally, they still weren't connected to what my body actually wanted and needed. After years and years and years of putting myself through hell, and then getting better, but still pushing myself a lot more than I was realizing, my body said, enough is enough, you're not listening, we're shutting down. And I was pissed and I was miserable. Something that I have to emphasize is that working against my body, listening to all of the other voices out there of what I should be doing, that's what got me here. Therefore, that's not what was going to help me get any better or move forward. Working against my body is what got me here. Working with my body, therefore, is what was going to help me heal, help me move forward, help me get better, and help me be me again. Now, this is where the Mint Green Journal comes into play in this episode. I don't know if you can see it. I'll hold it up to the camera if you're watching. Oh yeah, you can. On YouTube, this is a list of everything that I tried July 3rd, 2024. So July 2nd, I get to a point of like, enough is enough. I am done feeling like this. I am so fed up. I am so heartbroken. I will do anything to get better. And doing anything means rejecting and releasing everything that I had thought for all this time I should be doing and embracing instead what might work better. And I didn't know what that was. Now, 2 years later, I am so in tune with my body that I can listen and build habits based on what my body actually needs. I know exactly what that looks like, and I'm always learning more. However, at this time, I had no idea, so I'm trying everything. In this time in my life, I stopped being vegetarian, which I'd been vegetarian for 10 years, and I start eating meat again because I wonder if animal protein and iron will help me get better. I removed my birth control, which I have no personal opinions of if you should do that, but for me, it was something I had to try because I needed to track my hormonal cycle. Again, these migraines are hormone related since I was 13, 14 years old. And with the IUD that I had, I wasn't bleeding. So I'm like, okay, take that thing out of me. I need to get my cycle again. I need to be able to track it. Actually has been a game changer for me, has been so incredibly helpful, but I know that's a very personal decision. So vegetarian, I get the birth control taken out. I move houses like overnight. I break these and I'm like, I gotta get out of here because I start to have this theory that maybe I'm being poisoned by mold. There's a lot of mold in Bali. There's a very strong monsoon season for about half the year where it rains a lot. And a lot of the houses here are not built the best to survive that healthily and not have mold. It's very, very, very difficult to prevent. If you've ever spent time in Bali in the rainy season, you know this. So I find somewhere that is newer, build, doesn't have mold, and I move the next day. The friendship breakup and the does he like me episode, all about this guy that I am just putting myself in this horrible pattern with, those relationships out of my life. I change everything that I can in order to get better. Everything. I stopped working out the way I was, I stopped eating the way I was, and I am completely open to change. If you look at this list, some of the things on here make a lot of sense, right? Like go on a walk, have light caffeine only after 90 minutes of being awake, things to do with my hormones, things to do with protein and iron. And then there's some non-traditional things as well, all in capital letters with a little heart. Asking for help, that's a huge one. Ice baths, peppermint oil, jaw massages, meditation, breath work, like all of the woo-woo stuff, nasal decongestions, medication, cold compresses, hot showers, education, continuing to learn more, symptom tracking, go to neurologist, food allergy tests, like I do everything. This is so important, not for you to understand all of the cool stuff I did, all of the hard things I did, but for you to understand what radically choosing yourself and choosing to listen to your body might look like for you. That's what it looked like for me. It's different for everyone because every body is different. But I just want you to know the headspace I was in at this time was going from I'm miserable, I'm sick of being stuck like this, to F this, I'm getting better no matter what it takes. There's some other really important things that I do at this time that have changed my ability to be myself, my ability to accept my body, and my ability to listen to my body forever. It has changed them forever. Number one, I mentioned that I let go of all of the shoulds of how I should have healthy habits and take care of myself. I also stopped listening to everybody who has an opinion that is not medically informed or has deep personal experience with extremely similar issues. Because there's a lot of people in my life, some have good intentions, some don't, that want to tell me what they think I should do at this time. And again, even when it's well-intentioned, if that makes you feel a little bit defensive to hear that I don't want to listen to it, just trust that when you're receiving so much of that feedback and you're already trying your best to make changes, having so much external noise is exhausting, even when it's coming from a good place. I now have a lot of clients who struggle with chronic illnesses or chronic diseases in various ways. This is something that we are constantly coming back to, of me teaching them how to release that people pleaser that feels like they need to listen to everyone's opinion, find self-trust that they can listen to their own body and their own opinions, and tune out the noise. So much of the body image work is those specific skills, and that's what I'm building in this time. Boundaries, if you can't tell from the last 2 episodes, become something that I need to get a lot better at this time in my life, and I do. Why is it crazy to say that I stopped listening to everyone else and finally started listening to myself? That is so obvious when I say it, probably to you, but how many of us actually do that? I had to go through hell. I had to go through my darkest days of not being able to get out of bed, wondering if I will never be normal again, in order to realize, girl, listen to yourself. Stop putting everybody else's opinions ahead of your own. Trust yourself more than you trust random people on the internet, random strangers at the gym, even people that know you very well and love you a lot who don't really know what they're talking about. And if you're gonna listen to anyone, find the people that do. Find the people that have personal experience or professional knowledge. Something else that I went through at this time in my life is that I had to learn how to listen to myself more than other people, as I just mentioned, but that also included the doctors. About a year ago now, I went to Istanbul, Turkey, which is where my best friend Ellie is from, because they can do a comprehensive medical checkup where you go to the hospital and you get everything checked. I'm talking multiple MRIs and EKGs, blood tests, hormone tests. I went to a physical therapist. I went to a gynecologist. I went to ears, nose, and throat. I had 9 hours of appointments in one day and then 2 follow-up days as well. Chest x-rays, everything x-rays. I think I was touched everywhere you can imagine me being touched, which was extremely invasive, but also I was willing to do it in order to get better. And something I found from that experience as well is that these doctors have so much knowledge that is so valuable, and nobody knows what it's like to be in my body the way that I do. And I would come into some of these appointments and say, hey, do you think that the fact that I have a deviated septum and that might be affecting my breathing and my circulation and the pressure in my head, do you think that's contributing to the migraines? And the nose doctor, whatever they're called, he said to me, yeah, you have a deviated septum, but it's not enough to cause this severe health problem you're having. Maybe true. And I knew from the 10 appointments I had been in before, if you added up the nose problem and the chest problem and the shoulder problem and stacked it all together, I was starting to see a picture of how all of these tiny things in my body fit together and might add up to these bigger problems structurally. Nobody really wanted to listen to me at the hospital when I tried to explain how all of those little things might click together, but I had to trust, and I still trust in my own knowledge of what it's like to be in my body, that this was valuable information worth paying attention to. And so yes, I only have a slightly deviated septum. And it definitely impacts my breathing, my circulation, and the pressure in my freaking head. And I stand by that. But it is really hard to have that inner resolve. I talk with clients all the time who are constantly going in and out of the doctor's appointments. And one of the things that I hear most often is, I'm dreading this doctor's appointment because I just feel like I'm not going to be listened to. And it is so valid. It is so common. And you have to go in knowing that you are going to listen to yourself. You are going to show up for yourself. You're going to advocate for yourself. You need to be empowered in this, not someone that is under someone else's thumb. And that is so much easier said than done. That's literally why I have to coach people through it and why I had to learn it in the hard way at this time in my life. I cried so much in Turkey. I cried so much at that doctor's, all of those appointments, because they couldn't find anything wrong with me. And because I felt like no one could understand me. Also, no one could understand me. Whole other story, but like everything was in Turkish. My best friend had to translate everything. So yes, like also literally no one could understand me. And that was a very hard part of the experience. But we live and we learn, right? So let's fast forward. I told you 2 years ago I was bedbound. Now I'm obviously sitting here talking to you. This morning, I went to the gym. I went to a high intensity workout, which in the worst of my migraine days would have set me back like literally 3 weeks, a month of having a migraine. Seriously, one workout could do that to me at this time. I made food choices every day for the last year and a half that I feel are informed to my body. I am filming this podcast. I am back full-time, more than full-time at work because I run a business, so I work 24/7. I have a social life again. I am dating again. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing the smile on my face as I'm saying this. I have my life back. I have my freaking life back. Because every single day, I took the little teeny tiny opportunities to listen to myself, to test what works for my body, to trust the process and trust that I was going to figure this out. And that's another thing that I need to say to you in this conversation today. Please do not listen to anyone who makes you feel like you will never get better. Is living with a chronic condition something you might need to accept? Absolutely. And this does not have to be your life forever. I know if you had told me that 2 years ago, I probably would have been angry. I probably would have been like, stop trying to make me feel like what I'm feeling isn't valid. I don't know, it feels invalidating in a way. But as someone who has come out of this, I don't see enough stories online or in real life of people that went through what I've been through and actually came out of it. I hear this from clients all the time. I'm not getting better and no one seems to have any hope for me. Like everyone just tells me to accept it. And there is a level of acceptance that needs to happen. The type of acceptance that lets you say, okay, this is my body. How do I work with her instead of against her? And you do not have to accept that you can never be a capable version of you again. To the question of this episode, will I ever be normal again? Normal to me at this time meant who I used to be and what my idea of normal was, right? All of those shoulds of how I should live my life. I will never be that girl again. Will I ever be myself again? Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm here now and I'm becoming her more and more every single day. And I promise you, you can too. Do not take no for an answer. Seriously. If you have dreams to travel, to run a business, to go back to your dating, go back to being a social butterfly, go back to whatever you used to love, reading, crochet, I don't know, going on walks, going on hikes. I used to be a runner. That's something I haven't gotten back yet. Running's very hard if you're migraine prone for me. I will get that back. I will be that version of me again. I will also be a version of me that is so much more connected to herself. And in that way, I will never be normal. I will never be the same, but I will be so much more me. Needing a different approach to wellness does not mean that you're doing it wrong. The way that I work out, I eat, I work, I socialize, I date, I live, travel now is very different than how I used to do it. And it's very different than how a lot of people do it because they are more able-bodied than I am in a lot of ways. Me doing it different doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong. Different does not equal bad. So much of this life and being yourself is learning how to listen to who you uniquely are. This is just one version of me doing that, but that is the purpose of this entire podcast. I had a client about a year ago, severely chronically ill, multiple diagnosed conditions and multiple undiagnosed conditions that it's just a bunch of symptoms of, I don't even know where this fits. She came to me and said, I have no friends. I have never been kissed, never had a boyfriend. I am so lonely. I have tried everything. I have multiple doctor's appointments a week. You are my last hope. And through our work together for about 6 months, I'm happy to say, love this girl. She found friends that are so her people. She found a dating life and then she found a partner. She found so much confidence in herself. I saw the light come back in her eyes. When we first started working together, I asked her to write down 5 things that she likes about herself. And she literally looked at me and was like, I can't come up with anything. A month later, we had built out this list of like 25 plus things that she genuinely liked about herself. Having the right person to talk to is life-changing this way. But she asked me one time, she said, I want to travel like you. I want to travel the world. I've been stuck in my apartment for 9 years. How do you do it? Do I have to get to a certain level of better before I can do it? And I said, yeah, sure, in some ways. Your goal is to strengthen your wellness. And you need to change your perspective of what travel is going to look like for someone in your situation. I told her, you're probably going to have to save more money in order to go on a trip because you need to take more days to see the same amount of landmarks that someone in a more able body could see in half the time. You are probably going to have to save more because you'll need to Uber instead of taking public transport because lugging your suitcase onto the London Tube, down all of those stairs and back up those stairs, if you've ever been in any subway system, it is horrendous for an average person. Get in an Uber. Pay for the Uber because you will be exhausted otherwise trying to do it the way that you should, the way that someone else would. You're going to need to take more time, more money, more effort, more planning. It is going to be harder and it's going to be different. However, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. And it is a lot easier if you accept that it needs to look different for you and you start finding solutions for what your body needs instead of working against it. And you can apply that to every part of life when it comes to being someone who is chronically ill. That is my belief with all of my clients. Many of them have chronic fatigue. This also very much applies. Your rest days might be more like rest weekends, weeks, or months, and that is okay because it is the best that you can do right now. It is what you have, and so it has to be good enough. What we're focused on is just moving the needle step by step in the right direction so that you can become a happier version of you that is more connected to the body that you have now. But needing to do it different doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. And do not listen to the people that tell you that you'll never be able to do it right, or never be able to do it better, or never be able to do it good enough. You can. It's just going to look different. It's going to look your way, not theirs. Society, when it comes to beauty standards, health, everything, tells you, listen to me. Let me tell you how to eat, how to work, how to live, who to be. Your body is also going to ask to be heard. And if you don't listen, if you listen to everybody else for too long, your body will end up screaming at you. And she'll say, hey, you didn't listen. Now I'm gonna yell. And if you're anything like me, at least you finally listen. Chronic illness has given me a level of body acceptance that I didn't even know was possible. It's not been easy, but it is something that has made me as a coach, me as a retreat host, me as someone who loves the people that I get to meet because of this work, loves my clients. It has made me be able to understand and help in a way that I am so immensely grateful for. And I have never regretted what I've been through only because of that. Because I am now so much more me, and therefore I am so much more able to help you be you. I know that so many of the women that come to my Bali retreat this September are going to be women who have struggled with some form of chronic illness, disability, or something else that makes them feel like they are different from everyone else and therefore can't be good enough. I had a client who was child-free by choice and felt that her body wasn't good enough because she has a belly even though she's never had kids. She only hears this dialogue of, oh, but look at what your body's done for you. You've birthed children with that belly. And so she was like, I can't accept my belly because I haven't had babies. So many people that come to me are in that position of feeling like because we don't fit this mold of what's good enough, even in the body positivity space, body acceptance makes us feel like we can never fully accept who we are. And I just want you to know, being different doesn't mean that you're not good enough, doesn't mean you can't have the life you want. I hope that this piece of me being force-fed by my chronic illness, this is who you are, how to be yourself. You have to listen to yourself. I hope it gives you a little bit more of a permission slip on how to be you today. I love you. I'll see you next time.